What's up? What's up? What's up? Let me know in the chat if you can hear me. Let me know in the chat if you can hear me. Lovely. Amazing. All right, I'm going to tweet this out. And all right, we're good to go. What's everybody drinking? Let me know in the chat. We are drinking tonight Lagunitas Hazy Wonder IPA. Saw it in Rite Aid. Hadn't had this Lagunitas. And it's pretty good. Big hazy guy. Seeing some water. Seeing some coffee. It is Thirsty Thursday. Well, Pedialyte. Get hydrated. Love to see that. I hope I'm not the only one having a beer because after all, this is Hops with Pop. Well, Coors Light, can't go wrong there. Love me some Coors Light. All right, we'll give it like a minute or so. Let people trickle in here. A little White Claw, a little Cherry Coke. Randall says he's still at work. Well, hopefully we'll help you burn some time there. 805, great beer. LA beer. Pacifico, love that. Ooh, Russian River Blind Pig. I haven't heard of that one. Does Russian River do Pliny? I think that's the same brewery. We got Brazil in the house. As we all know, we are global here in Hops with Pop. All over the world. If you're international, make sure you let me know in the chat. Give you a shout out. Arjun asked when I'm adding stuff to my walls. I have what I need on my wall. There's a little, some jeans right there. But this is the beautiful Manhattan Bridge in New York City. They do make Pliny. All right, there you go. I know my beers. All right, we got some people in here. People are going to be trickling in. Let's see what else everyone's drinking. Little Big Wave, Kona Brewery. Love that. It's a great beer. Jason asked what's my favorite word for drunk. He likes slosh. My favorite word is toasted. Toasted. It's my favorite word for being drunk. We got Corona. We got New Zealand in the house. Tonga. I know Tonga's been in here before. He was here in the draft. I'm assuming I'm sorry if you're a she or otherwise. 1,300 hours would be 1 a.m. So shout out Tonga for being in the Hops with Pop stream late into the night there in New Zealand. We got a peanut butter stout. Monday Night Brewing, Mr. Robot. Haven't heard that one. Jason says, nice, bro. I'm currently toasted. Well, that's great. I hope to be there tomorrow night after we're done with training camp. A little celebration. All right, Grapefruit Sculpin IPA. Great. We got some good beers. Everyone's sipping on some good beer. We got a little Tito's action, a little White Claw. Love it, love it. All right. We got enough people in here now, so let's get to some questions. First joint practice of training camp today. That was exciting. The 49ers rolled in, and it was a good competitive practice. Got to commend both sides. No fights, no skirmishes. It was all business. That's obviously, a point of emphasis for Brandon Staley and for the whole organization. Making sure that these are productive practices. And you see all across the league, there are fights happening all over the place. Raiders, Rams has been a mess. It's just not productive. You want to go out there and be professionals and get your work in and improve. And I think it's a testament to both of these organizations, both of these teams, the players themselves for, keeping it professional today. And I think both teams got some good work in. Just before we start getting into the questions, the way I decided to break it up, it's 2 practices, and the Chargers offense is going up against the 49ers defense on one field, 49ers offense against the Chargers defense on another field. It's kind of hard to go between the 2 fields. You got to walk all the way around the facility to sort of get to the other sideline. So what I decided to do is today I was going to watch the offense, focus in on that, and then tomorrow I'll focus in on the defense So today's practice report, which you can find right here in the description. If you don't subscribe, click the link and you'll be able to subscribe. I have every single detail from the offense to the Chargers offense going up against the 49ers defense. If you're looking for some more defensive stuff, I have 15 days worth of practice reports on there with all sorts of defensive highlights and notes. But tomorrow will be the defensive centric joint practice report, just so everyone is on the same page. Now that we got that out of the way, let's get to some questions. Throw them in the chat, and I got about 25 minutes for you guys. I always say that, and we end up doing this for like 3 hours. So, but I'll answer as many questions as I can. Let's get to it. All right, how was practice? So stoked with anticipation for a great season. Washington football team is going down week 1. Like I said, really competitive practice. I really focused in on the wide receiver, DB, one-on-ones, and I thought all the guys competing for roster spots there at wide receiver all made plays. I thought KJ Hill had an outstanding practice. He caught 4 balls in 11 on 11, ran 2 great routes on his 2 reps in one-on-ones. And he's sort of carving out a role for himself in this team. If they do keep that 6th receiver, it seems like KJ Hill is in the lead just because he's the number 1 kick returner and number 1 punt returner and has been making plays in 11 on 11. But Guyton, Tyron Johnson, Jason Moore, even Austin Prohl, all making plays today. In terms of the team drills, 11 on 11, the protection was a little leaky. Brian Bulaga was out with the hip flexor. Rashawn Slater, they're being extra safe with this little lower back situation he's got going on. So you had Storm Norton in there at left tackle, Trey Pipkins in there at right tackle. And it got a little leaky there for all 3 teams, first team, second team, and third team. I had 6 sacks total for the 49ers defense, and there was a couple plays where Herbert had to step up in the pocket or evade pressure. Easton Stick was running for his life at times, and he actually made a really nice throw in the red zone in one of those situations. So I wouldn't say overly concerning. You don't have your top group out there, and that sort of messes up everything, So then Darius Harper ends up being on the second team instead of being on the third team. So I wouldn't read too much into it. The 49ers have some players. Nick Bosa obviously didn't practice, but they still got Eric Armstead. They still got D Ford, who got in there in the mix a little bit and got a sack. So I wouldn't read too much into it, but I thought Herbert looked outstanding. I thought he looked like he has all camp. Looks like he's operating this offense at a high level, and the physical traits just jump off the page. He can fit balls into tight windows. And that's just the reality of having a guy with that kind of arm strength and that kind of accuracy. And he continues to do it. Obviously looked for Keenan a lot. I thought his connection with Jared Cook stuck out today. Cook caught a few balls in 11 on 11. So yeah, that's my overall assessment of practice. Well, let's get into some more specifics here. When can we expect you to be given a trial for the kicking job? I hear you've kicked from 40-plus yards. I've made a 45-yarder into the wind, and I also kicked a 40-yarder at the Jets practice facility. I'm not going to tell that story because we'll see a massive decrease in viewership here because everyone in here has probably heard that story before. But I'd say an above average field goal kicker for the total population, but NFL kickers are the best of the best of the best of the best, top 0.0001%. These guys are incredible. And so, yeah, I'm never kicking in the NFL. I know it's a joke, but we do have to give these guys some credit for how good they are at kicking field goals, not just in terms of the distances, but their accuracy. It's pretty ridiculous how amazing these guys are. How did Slater do? Slater did not practice, as I said. Any chance of looking at veteran tackle for depth? Schwartz, Okung. You really want Russell Okung back? That ship has sailed. No, they're not looking for any tackle depth. Is there any way to get the reporter's mic during post-practice interviews? That's not something that I control. I would say tweet at the Chargers account. They're usually pretty responsive, and they might think about it. I think it's a little bit difficult for the PR staff to make that happen. They have to have a mic to pass around, and that's just not the environment it is. We're all standing in front of them asking the questions. So I know it's a difficult situation. And hopefully, during the season, we get this pandemic under control and people get vaccinated and everyone's wearing their masks and we can get back to, total normalcy in terms of how these press conferences are run. But I think the PR staff is doing the best they can with everything. So I know it's not ideal for you guys, but it's tough for them to get the questions mic'd up. I think that in post-game pressers, they'll probably be able to do that. And then we'll see what happens, during the season when those press conferences are happening at the facility. Jeff asks, any successful run plays? Yeah, that was an issue. I mean, they really had a tough time getting anything going in the running game. I think I had really one legitimately positive run the whole day, and that was Darius Bradwell on a cutback. But Eckler was getting knocked around a little bit. I had 2 tackles for loss, obviously behind the line of scrimmage against his first team. So it wasn't a good day for the offensive line, straight up. But, and this is a key but, you're missing your first-round pick left tackle, and you're missing your starting right tackle. So that has to factor into it. But I thought that the second-team offensive line had looked good, but that second-team offensive line was with Storm Norton and Trey Pipkins, and not Brendan Hymus, a left tackle rookie, and Darius Harper, another rookie who's undrafted. Darius Harper had a tough day today, and he's more of a practice squad developmental guy. He got beat for a sack, and then on Chase Daniel's interception that ended practice in the 2-minute drill, he got beat again. And Chase's arm got knocked by 77. I forget his name, Eddie Yarborough, and that caused the interception. So run blocking wasn't very good. Pass protection was leaky. I thought the offense was still productive given that. And Herbert's at this point is obviously really comfortable in those situations just because he was running for his life all of last year, and operating under pressure is partly a skill, and Justin Herbert has proved that he is very capable in those situations, throwing with hands in his face, throwing when under pressure. Obviously, it's a different situation in practice because you're not actually hitting the quarterback, but he proved to be very adept in those situations during the season last year. We all watched it. All right, let's keep going. Will special teams improve from what was shown with the pass game against the Rams? So here's the thing with the special teams group, and why I don't think you should read too far into it in these preseason games. I mean, you have so many moving pieces in these preseason games because all of the bottom 30 players on the roster plus 30 plus players are all rotating into different units. And some guys are getting, Chris Rumph got shut down on special teams going into the second half, but he was still active on defense. And that's where the mix-up came in with the 12 men is Chris Rumph thought he was still playing special teams. It wasn't communicated properly to him, but that's not going to happen during the season. During the season, you're going to have your set groups on your core 4 units. And it might change a player here and there depending on who's up and down, but for the most part, you're going to have your group. And so there's not going to be as many moving pieces. You're not going to be substituting guys in. You're not going to be trying getting looks at guys that are at the bottom, 30 spots of the roster because those guys are all going to be either cut or on the practice squad, and you're only going to have 46 guys active on game day. So those types of miscommunications aren't going to be there, and you're going to have your best players in the field. So I'm not reading too much into the preseason performance in terms of how the special teams will project into the regular season. I am looking at it to see, okay, which guys at the bottom of this roster are showing an aptitude in that area in terms of finalizing my 53-man roster. But I have a lot of faith that these special teams are going to be a lot better this year, just based on the coaching from Darius Swinton, just based on the fact that they went out and got some veterans who are experienced in that area. Kyler Fackrell is obviously one. Ryan Smith is injured, but he's another guy. And then the young guys last year with a little better coaching, a little more experience, guys like Gabe Neighbors, guys like Emeka Egbule, you expect them to improve. Josh Kelly is another good example. You expect those guys to be better on special teams heading into the season. So I'm not overly concerned with it, but you do want to see some improvement, even with the moving pieces heading into the second preseason game. Hopefully Slater will be ready week 1. He will be. Yeah, I think the latest he would return to practice is next week. We'll see what happens tomorrow. Who do you think will be wide receiver 3? I think Josh Palmer. I think he's distancing himself. He had another really good practice today. He's working almost exclusively with the first team. He's developing that sort of relationship with Justin Herbert. And I think something that stood out today is that Keenan Allen said that Josh Palmer right now is ahead of where he was as a rookie in terms of his route running polish, in terms of his understanding of football, all of these things that make Keenan Allen one of the best receivers in the league. And that says something. And that's really what they saw in Josh Palmer when they drafted him. Obviously, athleticism and build, but a polished route runner, really smart player with strong hands and the versatility to move inside and outside. And he has lived up to those expectations as a third-round pick. He just brings more to the table than Jalen Guyton does and Tyron Johnson does either. They're both speed guys. I've seen a lot of improvement in both of their route running. I think they're both better in the short to intermediate area of the field. But in terms of what they bring to the table, primarily, it's that speed threat. You want those guys on the roster, but Josh Palmer gives you everything. He's not the fastest guy, but he can win deep. And his route running allows him to create space, especially in money down situations like third down, right? 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6, the places where Keenan Allen is really excellent. Josh Palmer also thrives in that area. So you all of a sudden you run a receiving group out there on 3rd and 6 with Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, and Josh Palmer, and you have to imagine one of those guys is going to get open. Earlier, I still think it's going to be a rotational thing. If you want more speed on the field, obviously you go to Jalen Guyton or Tyron Johnson. But I think Josh Palmer is the most well-rounded receiver of that group, and I sort of see him pretty firmly entrenched in that wide receiver 3 spot right now. Have Norton and Pipkins shown enough to be fine as swing tackles, or is it still a position the Chargers should look at via end of cuts? Yeah, one of those guys is going to be the swing tackle. I think Storm Norton has been better so far, and I think he has a leg up. I'm not overly confident in either of those players. The Chargers are sort of banking on Bulaga staying healthy. And they've been rotating those guys in when Bulaga has sat out, when he's gotten those veteran days off. They have gone with either Norton or Pipkins at right tackle. But I think if this were to happen in season and they did not have one of those guys, I think Matt Filer kicking out to right tackle is a really, really strong possibility, especially with the way Brendan Hymas has been playing. I think an offensive line with Hymas at left guard and Filer at right tackle is better than an offensive line with Filer at left guard and either Pipkins or Norton at right tackle right now. So that's an option. That's a possibility. Keep that in mind, that swing tackle spot doesn't necessarily have to come in once Bulaga goes down. And entirely because Matt Filer can kick out to right tackle in those situations. So you have some flexibility, and it would really have to take 2 injuries for one of those guys to see the field. The kicker battle sounds like a dumpster fire. That's not a question, but we're going to talk about it because Tristan Vizcaino was in the driver's seat. I thought that if he continued to kick like he had been kicking, the job was his. He'd been taking all the first team reps. He kicked first in the preseason game. And today he just had a bad day. He had a bad day in a big moment. These joint practices are pretty close to a game environment. Tom Telesco was standing 5 yards behind both kickers as they kicked. He was locked in. And Tristan Vizcaino had misses from 33, 50, and 52. And then he missed a 56-yarder in the 2-minute drill. Now, obviously, you don't expect your kicker to make it from 56 yards, but you're trying to win a competition. Those are the things that'll put you over the top. Michael Badger, meanwhile, hit 5 of 6. And the kick he missed from 50 yards was a high snap from long snapper Ryan Langan. Ty Long did a great job of getting the ball down, but the operation was a little bit out of whack because of the high snap. And I think that affected Badgley's kick. But Badgley stepped up today. And I think that there's a little crack in the door for him now after what happened in this practice today. But it's hard not to feel like this is going to be an issue this season. You want to go into a season really confident with who your kicker is. If you're not, it's usually going to come back to bite you at some point in the season. And it would really be a shame if this team is as a team as talented as this, they can put it together and the coaching staff is as good as the organization expects them to be, and then they're losing games because they don't have a reliable kicker. That would really be a shame. So they got to get this figured out. Right now, I still think it's going to be one of those 2 guys. I still think Tristan Vizcaino has the leg up, no pun intended. And I think he just had a bad day. But it's a concern. It's a question mark. There's no question about that. All right, let's keep going. Not worried about Slater? No, not worried about Slater at all. No one says, yo, it was nice talking to you at Camp Pop. Caught the football from Keenan Allen after talking to you. That's awesome. And it was a pleasure talking to you as well. Anything new from Trey McKitty? Yeah. He caught a ball today in, I want to say 7-on-7. And he looked pretty solid in one-on-one drills. He's athletic. Like, he moves really well. The fact of the matter is they're going to be relying on him as a blocker. That's his role. And he's doing that serviceably right now. It's going to take an injury for him to really become a bigger part of the passing game. But he's sort of a developmental piece. As long as he can go in there and be functional as a blocker in the run game, that's all they're asking from him. They don't need him to be a threat in the passing game, and he certainly has the movement, the athleticism to develop into that kind of player down the road. But Jared Cook and Donald Parham give you everything you need in terms of receiving from tight ends. And Donald Parham has taken a huge jump from last year to this year. I mean, he looks like a legitimate player, especially in the red zone. He had a tough rep today in the red zone. Herbert lofted a ball up to him in the back corner, and he was matched up with Fred Warner, who's an all-pro player, one of the best linebackers in the league, if not the best linebacker in the league. And Warner had the pass breakup. But Parham caught a 60-yard touchdown, ran down the seam, a beautiful double move that shook the safety. Herbert fired in there in the seam, and Parham took off, and he moves outstandingly for his size at 6'8", 6'9". And he took it to the house, 60 yards. So they have everything they need receiving-wise. So Trey McKitty can be that blocking guy and come in and do the dirty work. That's all they really need from him. Well, Hyman's going to look at tackle also. He's been getting a look at tackle with Rashawn out. So he was at left tackle on Tuesday and Monday too. And he was at left tackle today as well with the second team. So he's getting some run out there. But just because of his arm length, he's better suited on the interior at this level. And I think he's been playing better there when he's gotten reps there. But that's certainly, they want him to be a utility offensive lineman. So they want him to be a guy that can play tackle in a pinch and be that kind of swing guard in the middle that can play left side and right side. And he's shaping up to be that kind of player. Joe Lombardi talked glowingly about him on Tuesday and said he thinks he's going to be a really good offensive lineman in this league for a long time. And that says something. So, yep, getting a look at tackle, but I think he's on a great trajectory right now and is sort of being that guy that can really give them the depth at offensive line that they need. Do you still like the Palmer pick with how good the other wide receivers are stepping up? I stand by my take that I thought they should have gone offensive line in that round. Wyatt Davis was available. We'll see how this all shakes out. I don't know if Wyatt Davis is actually going to be a good player. I think from a process standpoint, I would have prioritized getting more depth in the offensive line in that spot. That is taking nothing away from the kind of player Palmer is. And he looks like he's going to be a legitimately good NFL wide receiver. So it's not a bad pick, but I sort of stand by my analysis in the moment that they should have prioritized offensive line in that spot over wide receiver. But it looks like it's going to work out anyway. Asante Samuel gaining ground on Faison for the cornerback 2 spot, or does it seem like Faison will be start one? Yeah, Asante Samuel Jr. has that spot pretty much locked up right now. It was a battle before Brandon Faison had that unfortunate family matter that he had to attend to back in Nashville, and it just set him back a little bit. He missed, I think, 4 or 5 practices, and in that time, Asante Samuel Jr. took a step forward. Right now, it's Asante Samuel Jr. getting all those reps at outside corner and nickel packages. And I don't really expect that to change before the season starts. With Jackson out, who's taking advantage of the RB2 spot more, Kelly or Roundtree? Right now, it's Josh Kelly in that running back 2 spot. Roundtree and Bradwell are working with the second and third teams, mostly. We'll see if Roundtree keeps performing in these preseason games. I certainly could see him being in the mix if Justin Jackson has to miss significant time with his groin injury. But right now it's Kelly. And like I said, well, I didn't say it. I wrote it on Tuesday. He's really showing development as a pass protector, which is really important for young running backs when they're trying to get on the field. He had an incredible blitz pickup. I mean, Kenneth Murray came screaming off the right edge. And I was watching from a vantage point down the field, and I saw Kenneth Murray take off at the snap, and I was like, oh my God, sack. I was literally looked at in my notebook to write sack, and then I hear the collision, and I'm looking down there, and Josh Kelly would manage to pick up Kenneth Murray on a free blitz. And that shows me something, that his brain and his football IQ is getting there at the NFL level. He has all of the tools physically. But that's a big, big thing. If your young running backs are showing that kind of ability to pass protect in practice, that goes a long way toward earning those reps with the first team. Do you think they keep 4 running backs? Right now, I have 4 running backs on my 53-man, but that's going to depend entirely on what happens with Justin Jackson. and if he's healthy or not. If he's not healthy, and let's say he has to start the season on IR, that would be a tougher call. Because I don't know if Darius Bradwell gives you more than maybe a defensive player on special teams, although he had that great tackle in kickoff coverage. So right now I say yes, because I don't think this Justin Jackson injury is that significant. And I imagine that all four of those guys, Eckler, Jackson, Kelly, Roundtree, will all be on the 53-man. How has Michael Davis looked? I think he's looked good. I mean, I think based on what I've seen, it looks like he's going to live up to that contract. He's in man coverage a lot more, so he's on an island. But he obviously had that interception in 2-minute drill last week, or was it earlier this week? I can't even remember. All the days are blending together. And I thought this was noteworthy, and I wrote about this in my practice report. Michael Davis got beat by Mike Williams in the scrimmage at SoFi on a back shoulder throw. It was a great throw, and it was hard for him to make a play on that. But Brandon Staley said that Ronaldo Hill and Derek Ansley and Tommy Donatel, their sort of secondary group. Ronaldo Hill is obviously the defensive coordinator. Ansley's the secondary coach, and Donatel is the assistant secondary coach. They started working on that with Michael Davis. How do you defend back shoulder throws? And this was over the course of 10 days or so that they're coaching him up on this. They're teaching him the technique and individual drills. And then Justin Herbert tries to go back to that back shoulder throw to Jason Moore in the 2-minute. Davis reads it, applies that coaching, and comes up with the interception. I think that's important to note. When guys are taking coaching and applying it on the field, that's really important. Michael Davis physically has everything you want in a number one corner. Runs 4.3, is 6'2", and size speed combination is what you're looking for. It's always been a getting him up to speed in terms of technique, in terms of fundamentals, in terms of these things that make a great cornerback in the NFL. And he's getting there. That's why he got paid. And I think he's going to thrive in this scheme just because he is more of a man-to-man corner than he is a cover 3 corner. And he likes playing press and playing man-to-man. And so he seems more eager. He seems more excited about the defense. So I think that to use Joe Lombardi's term, the arrow is definitely pointing up on Michael Davis. Why didn't you watch defense today since only Nasir missed time over the offense with Slater and Bulaga out? It's a good question. I just was over on this side of the field watching the Chargers do individual drills, and that's where they were to stretch and everything. So I was on that side to begin with. And I was like, I'm just going to stay here and watch the offense today and then watch the defense tomorrow. There really was no method to the madness. That's just what I decided. Why hasn't Trey Pipkins been cut? Because the organization believes in him. Straight up. That's it. My guy, Kenny Ducey, friend of mine from New York, now a betting expert at DraftKings, asked me where the hat is from. My sister got it for me for my birthday a couple years back. I forgot the brand. It's pretty dope, though, right? Well, Jaime's going to look at swing tackle. So we talked about Jaimes, but not in a swing tackle role yet. Maybe down the road. Can you see Roundtree win the running back 3 spot over Kelly? I think all 4 of them are going to make the roster. So, I think running back 1 is Eckler. Running back 2 right now is Jackson if he's healthy. And then Roundtree and Kelly are sort of 3A and 3B. I don't think that there's really like a running back 3 spot. How many tight ends do you see making the roster? I have 4 on my roster right now. Cook, Parham, McKitty, and then I have Steven Anderson making it because he's been a prominent piece in the core 4 special teams units. And he's been a playmaker offensively as well. Any veteran on the team you think could be cut that might surprise us? I don't see any surprise cuts. The most surprising I could think of, Easton Stick, I don't think is going to make the 53-man. The Stick Hive is in here. I apologize for bursting your bubble here, but I don't think he's going to make it. Michael Badgley, Justin Jackson was a guy I thought could be cut, but just based on how he's been used, he's really in the mix. Now the injury could change that, but other than those guys, I don't really see them making any surprise cuts in terms of veterans. But obviously, after that third preseason game, I'll have my final 53-man roster projection at The Athletic, and you'll see there. But right now, I don't. Right now, I don't really see it. I don't really see it. All right, let's keep going. Got a lot of questions in here today. Hitting 30 minutes now. I'll try and get through as many of these as I can. Vaccination situation looking like it's all but a handful of guys. I want to say 5 to 10 guys aren't vaccinated. So do the math there. It's a pretty good percentage. Possibility of either Kelly or Jackson getting cut. 0% chance that Kelly gets cut. Right now, I think it's probably like a 7% chance that Jackson gets cut, only because of the injury. McKitty, Anderson working at H-back or all. Does it look like Neighbors is spot locked up? Anderson has gotten some reps at H-back, at fullback. McKitty has not, from what I've seen. But Neighbors is going to be the primary guy in that spot. Although, they've been moving Neighbors all over. They've been lining him up split wide. They've been lining up in the slot some. So he's a versatile piece. But his primary role will be as a blocker in those I formations. If you had known Slater wasn't going to be out there, would you have watched the other side scrimmage? Said I knew Slater wasn't going to be out there because I reported it and I saw him on the sideline. But I don't think he's going to be out there tomorrow either. So, listen, I had to watch offense one day and defense the other day, and I made the decision that I thought was best in the moment. So that's the last time I'm talking about it. All right, we're getting some repeat questions here. Yes, Hymas played tackle today. Who's the best looking receiver today? I said KJ Hill. How's Camp Moyer looked? Camp Moyer has gotten a little more run with the second team recently. He caught 2 balls in practice on Tuesday. Caught another ball today. Looking like a legitimate practice squad piece. They cut a tight end to get down to 85 on Tuesday, so that's a good sign for him that he wasn't the first tight end cut. Him, Matt Sokol are the tight ends outside of those 4 that I mentioned. And so one of them is probably going to end up on the practice squad. And, I think Camp Moyer looks good. He's obviously got the size and he's looked good running routes, strong hands, good hands. So I think he's sort of an interesting developmental piece as a tight end in the practice squad. Did you help Arif write the Herbert regression piece? I read it after he wrote it, but I didn't help with it. I wrote my own take on the Herbert regression stuff in a mailbag earlier this spring. And if you want to check that out, it's on The Athletic. I'm concerned about pass rush beyond Bosa, talking off the ledge. Chemi Nwosu is poised for a breakout year. He's, Ronaldo Hill said the other day that he was a little bit slow early on getting a grasp of the scheme. But Kyler Fackrell's a proven player in this league. And then they drafted Chris Rumpf, who's a little bit undersized in terms of his weight, but obviously has a knack for getting after the quarterback. So I think they're fine with what they have, as long as Chemi Nwosu can take that leap that everyone's expecting. Balaga has missed a lot of time. Is this part of the bubble wrap? Is this part of the bubble wrap him until the season starts playing? Today wasn't. Sorry, I totally mumbled through the second part of that question. Is this part of the bubble wrap him until the season starts plan? Today was not. Today was a hip flexor injury that flared up on earlier this week in a practice. So slightly concerning. But the other time he's missed has all been load management. So this is the first time that it's been an actual injury. Tackle stock, but how did Lindsley and the first team guards look today? Not great. They didn't get much push in the running game, and Ode Ibushi got beat really bad for a sack in one of the first 11 on 11 periods. That defensive tackle had a free run on Herbert. So just an off day for the offensive line. I wouldn't read too much into it. Like I said, they didn't have their full team out there. They didn't have their first round left tackle, and they didn't have Bulaga. So I'm not the sky isn't falling. Take a deep breath. All right. We are at 35 minutes, and I got time for 3 more questions. That's 6. 3 more questions. I've scrolled down to the bottom. So give me those questions in. If you asked a question earlier and it didn't get answered, put it in now, and maybe it'll get answered. But I have time for 3 more questions. By the way, apparently it was not the Sauvignon Blanc that helped with the Wi-Fi, because we're drinking beer tonight and the Wi-Fi is holding up strong. It's because of, let's see if we can say it in the chat. Why is the Wi-Fi working? Somebody tell me that was here last week. Why is the Wi-Fi working? There's a very specific answer to this question. Yeah. Positive vibes, baby. The good vibes. Let's spread them all around. Make sure we send some to the Wi-Fi, which is out there. I closed my door today because Frankie, my puppy, was being noisy. But we're just going to spread the vibes all over. Positive vibes to this corner, that corner, to that corner, to that corner. It's all on the face, everywhere. All right. 3 more questions. All right. This doesn't count, but someone says any exclusive pieces coming out soon. I have in the works the story that I am most excited about that I've ever written at The Athletic. I'm more excited about this story than any story I've ever written at The Athletic. Ever. Target date for publishing is the week before the Washington game. But I am stoked about it. It's going to be incredible. So if you don't subscribe to The Athletic, make sure you do that right now. Click the link below. Smash the subscribe button. But seriously, I'm super pumped, and that's coming out in a couple weeks. I will make sure to give you guys an updated timeline if I know in next week's Hops with Pop. But let's get some. All right, 3 more questions. Let's go. 3 more. 3 more. Good question here from Random Clips. Do you think Tillery deserves to start? Based on how the roster is currently constructed, yes, he deserves to start. But that says more about the depth that they have in the defensive line than it does about Tillery. I thought it was kind of ridiculous that Tillery wasn't dressed for this preseason game. Brandon Staley comes out and says that it's all the proven players aren't going to play. Jerry Tillery is not a proven player, plain and simple. He was awful as a rookie. Last year, he was better. He wasn't among the worst defensive players in the league in terms of pass rush productivity or just straight up tackle productivity. He was an average to slightly below average player last year. So he's far from proven. I think he should have been on the field. The only explanation that I can come up with is that they're so thin on the defensive line that they can't afford to lose Jerry Tillery. He has a lot to prove. He has a lot to prove before I can go out and say that he is a quality NFL player, because he's nowhere near that. He has promise. That's what made him a first-round pick. He's got a long body, long arms, very athletic, plays with an edge. But that hasn't turned into productivity in terms of his pass rush. Not just sacks. We're talking about pressures here as well. So he has a long way to go. But he does deserve to start because they are so thin at that position. So we'll see. I mean, maybe Brandon Staley is able to unlock him in a way that Gus Bradley wasn't. We'll see. All right. Let's keep going. 2 more questions. All right. If you had to pick one rookie UDFA to make the roster, who would it be? I'm sticking with Amen Agbangbamiga. I know the coaching staff really likes him. And he plays downhill. He plays physical. He's got a lot of developing to do in terms of his coverage. But I think he can provide a lot on special teams. And he's made plays in camp straight up. And he has a calm presence on the field. And that is appealing to this coaching staff. So I'm sticking with him. All right, we'll still do 2 more. On the athletic pieces, do you get anything if you get loads of awesome buttons pushed at the bottom where it asks readers to rate articles? No, not really, but it makes me feel good because we get like a score based on all, like when you click those buttons, we get a score that, and like the more awesome buttons we get, the higher score we get. So definitely smash that awesome button. Also, smash that subscribe button. Hammer that subscribe button. What's up, guys? Welcome to my YouTube page. Smash that subscribe button. All right. I like that so I'm going to keep doing it. 2 more questions. How confident are you in the secondary as a whole? Like that question. So, and that's Dan. Dan is a loyal follower on Twitter. Shout out, Dan. I might botch your last name. Thibault. Shout out to you. I see you in my mentions all the time. So I'm confident in the starting group. It's a really, really talented, really, really good starting group. The one area of weakness obviously would be, Nasir Adderley, but I have faith that this coaching staff is going to get him to where he's playing at a high level. I think that the scheme change is going to be great for him. He's going to be around the ball more. He's going to be more aggressive. And I think that's going to open him up a little more, unlock him a little bit. This coaching staff across the board is proven in developing young safeties. I mean, Ronaldo Hill turned Justin Simmons into an all-pro level player. Brandon Staley took Jordan Fuller, a 6th-round pick last year, and made him into a quality starting safety in the scheme. So there's reason to believe that Nasir Adderley is going to be better. Overall, I love the starting group, but I worry about the safety depth. I do. Because if Nasir Adderley goes down, it's Alohi Gilman, it's Mark Webb. I think those guys have looked better in camp. I think Mark Webb is going to develop into a really good player, but I worry about that depth. I really do. And so confident about the starters, but much less confident if something goes awry and they do have an injury, which as a Chargers beat writer, I have to expect at some point. Pronounced Tebow. Sorry, Dan. Dan Tebow. Might be. But I wanted to give you a shout out because you're a loyal follower. You ask great questions for the mailbags. And I love to give shout outs to the people that have been with me since day one on the Chargers beat. So shout out to Dan. All right. One last question. If I haven't answered your question, get it in now. One more question. One more question. One more question. Guilty as charged. Coming in with a question about Jason Moore, KJ Hill, and Austin Prohl. Guilty as charged. If you want to know more about those 3, go read my practice report from today because I have specific details on how all 3 of those guys fared in all of their one-on-one reps. You should know better than coming in here with a question like that I've already answered in the practice report. Go to theathletic.com/team/Chargers and check that out. All right, I kind of like this question. We'll end here. This is from Patman494 says, an X-line player said Lombardi and Stafford never saw football the same way, and that was the issue. Any thoughts on if this isn't the case with Herbert, with Staley's focus on communication with players? So it wasn't the best environment for Joe Lombardi in Detroit. And I talked about this with Robert Mays when he was at Chargers camp last week. The way the Saints worked, and you can go read about this in Jeff Duncan's awesome book about Drew Brees and Sean Payton, they were game planning up until late Saturday night, right? And it was collaborative, and they were accepting all kinds of different ideas. No idea was too crazy, right? And they were painstakingly game planning all week long, implementing new plays, coming up with new schemes and new plays and all sorts of different stuff all week, right? Even up until Saturday night, they used to have a meeting with Lombardi and Peyton and Breeze and Pete Carmichael, the offensive coordinator, on Saturday night, and they were introducing new concepts on Saturday night. Now, when Joe Lombardi got to Detroit, Jim Caldwell was the head coach, and he wanted the game plan done by Tuesday morning. So all of a sudden, you take a guy who's used to having all of this collaboration and adapting the game plan so much over the week, and it's constantly changing and morphing. And all of a sudden, he has to have a finalized game plan in by Tuesday morning. That is a situation where you're set up to fail. Because the entire premise of the system is being complex and being multiple and blitzing the defense with various formations and personnel groupings. And so you have to be able to morph and adapt and from week to week, late into the week. Now, Staley is much more in that Saints mindset. No idea is too crazy. Let's be collaborative. And anything that you come up with over the course of the week that is going to improve our game plan, we're going to at least look into it, at least consider it. So I think that was really the primary issue in Detroit. And that is why I think that this is a better environment for Joe Lombardi, because he and Brandon Staley have a relationship that goes back 15, 16 years, back to 2005 when Brandon Staley was a quarterback at Mercyhurst and Joe Lombardi was offensive coordinator. They are very close. They have a great relationship. Go check out my practice report from earlier this week when I wrote about the fact they're walking from the practice field of Jack Hammett back to the facility every day together, talking about football, talking about life. So it just seems like a better environment for Joe Lombardi. It's going to more closely resemble what he's used to at the Saints. And so because of that, I don't think it's going to be a repeat of what happened in Detroit. Yeah. Guilty as charged says Jeff Duncan also told us that Caldwell and Lombardi didn't really see eye to eye philosophically. It wasn't a good marriage. It wasn't a good marriage. But this obviously is a much better marriage because there's so much history there, and Brandon Staley and Joe Lombardi are so aligned in their football philosophy. So, guilty as charged says they already read it, or he already read it. One of the three of them, and so I'll answer the question that they asked. All three of those guys are pushing for a roster spot right now. KJ Hill, Austin Proehl, and Jason Moore. They're all making plays in 11-on-11. They're making plays in 1-on-1. And I've really been impressed by what Austin Proehl has brought to the table. I mean, this guy is a legit slot receiver. I mean, his releases are exceptional. His movements are very elusive, and his route running is very deceptive. It's hard for me to create a spot for him. I think he's absolutely a practice squad guy. Jason Moore has looked fantastic, and KJ Hill has started to come on lately. But like I said earlier in the stream, between those three guys, if there's one spot, let's say there's one spot at wide receiver, and it's that sixth spot, after Palmer Keenan, Mike Williams, Jalen Guyton, and Tyron Johnson, there's one spot, that sixth spot. I think it's going to be KJ Hill because he's the top kick returner and punt returner right now. But Austin Proehl is also a punt returner. So he does provide that flexibility. But right now, I think he's on top. But all three of those guys are making their case for the roster. All right. I need to turn my AC on. I'm starting to sweat. That's all I got for you guys. The beer is done. And as we know on Hops with Pop, when the beer is done, the stream is done. I didn't really like that, but we're going to roll with it. As always, I appreciate you guys joining me. For now, I know training camp is over tomorrow, but the interest in these streams has still been going strong. So let's just do them on Thursday nights, right? Like, why not? And we'll do them every Thursday night up until the season starts. And then, figure out what we want to do, during the regular season. I don't know. Well, before I leave, let me know in the chat. Like, should we do like game night streams? Where I'll finish writing and then we can do like late night Hops with Pop on Sunday nights or whenever the game is. If it's a Monday night game or a Thursday night game, we'll do them late night, and those will be the streams that we do. Or we could try and do them, midweek and just do, like keep doing them Thursday nights. I think the post game stream would be good, right? I'll finish writing, and then we can crack a beer whenever it is. Maybe it's kind of late, but we'll crack a beer and we'll talk about what happened in the game. I think that's probably the best option. You guys let me know in the chat though. Yeah, post game. All right. Well, we can figure it out. I'll probably throw a poll out on Twitter for you guys. Seems like everyone wants to do Sunday night. But yeah, when it gets close to the season, I'll throw out a poll and we can figure it out. Yeah, there are some East Coast fans who are like that might be the late night might be brutal. So maybe we do like a Monday recap. I don't know. I'll throw a yeah, that's a good idea. Guilty as charged says do day after so you can have time to think and watch some tape. The all 22 won't be out, but I'll be able to like go back and rewatch plays in the TV broadcast and have my thoughts collected a little bit more. All right, well let me think on it and I'll put out a poll closer to the start of the season and we can figure out exactly what we want to do. But you guys have made these a lot of fun. I'm really thankful that you guys are joining these every week, and we'll find a way to keep them going during the season whenever they happen. So with that, everyone have a fantastic night. And I'll be back at practice tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. So make sure you are plugged into my Twitter. And more importantly, make sure that you are subscribed to The Athletic so that you can read my daily practice reports. If you're not, the link is below. Click it right there. And you guys can get subscribed. But appreciate all of you. Peace. Have a good night.